President Xi of China says this virus is a demon and we cannot allow this demon to hide. The 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, says nothing is inevitable. And by American grit and determination, we will get through this. Talk Radio, 77 WABC, America's most powerful radio station. This is War Room Pandemic, the New York City Special Report. Jack Maxey, Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam, the entire War Room squad, including Stephen K. Bannon. A lot to get through the day, talking about Governor Cuomo, the President of the United States. The press conference is going to start 5-ish, probably 5:30. Want to let everybody know that americasvoice.news that we're streaming on Dish 219 will continue to cover the press conference afterwards. We're very honored to have Dr. William Grace, one of the most prominent oncologists in New York City, formerly the head of cancer research down at St. Vincent's Hospital and Medical Center. He joins us today from New York. Dr. William Grace, thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me on, Steve.
Can you give us, we had you on the show to go, can you give us your best assessment of where New York City stands as the Cat 5 hurricane begins to come across the landscape?
You couldn't have been more accurate in your description. In the next week and a half to 2 weeks, it's going to be Category 5, and we're going to see that the systems are going to become completely overwhelmed as the number of sick people come in. It's going to be difficult, I think, largely because New York City in particular was not very prepared. And New York City is, in many respects, many areas of New York City are areas where there's large population densities, where as many as 3 generations are living in 3 or 4 rooms with 1 bathroom, with lots of young children. And in these households where it's impossible to isolate anybody who is COVID positive, it runs rampant through the community. And we found also that a lot of the people who should have been recommending that we be more careful didn't do so early in the course of this. And so there was a lot of contamination because we didn't realize that the virus was already here quite early, much earlier than anyone gave credit for actually determining that there was virus. In that regard, we basically are organizing our armies to fight it. And but the hospitals that are completely overwhelmed, where the virus appears to be overwhelming the army, are up in places like Columbia and Harlem Hospital, out in Queens at Elmhurst and Long Island Jewish, where they're at overcapacity and running out of ventilators, running out of PPEs, running out of all the essential things to protect the caregivers. And so I'm not a hero. Those people are, and they're in the trenches every day.
Dr. Grace, you're not only one of the most prominent doctors in the city, in the medical community. You're a cultural figure among Catholics in the city and other folks. You've been on media all the time, and you're always very understated. You're the last person ever lights their hair on fire. It's kind of disturbing to hear you before we hit the apex of this report. Are we in worse shape today than you thought we would be when we had you on a week or so ago?
There are some places that I think are managing this well. Some of that is because they've set up very good protocols, and the protocols that I'm familiar with, some hospitals have set up a azithromycin and hydroxychloroquine on every COVID-positive patient that comes into the hospital. And these hospitals have kept a lot of people from getting sicker. They have discharged. Their velocity of discharge is much greater. The number of people who get to ICUs and respirators are fewer. And then when they do get into the ICUs and on respirators, they're using the anti-cytokine storm drugs, the anti-IL-6 and IL-6 receptor drugs, and these appear to be working well. I know of one hospital that actually is doing an extraordinary job, and they've had no deaths, velocities of discharge, and are doing extremely well.
Dr. Grace, this is Jason Miller. I have a question for you. So, if a COVID positive patient comes in and it's someone who you very much either think has the coronavirus or you've already diagnosed it, how long till they're actually prescribed hydroxychloroquine? What's that time frame? Is this a matter of hours? Is this a matter of days? What's that turnaround?
It's a matter of minutes in the hospitals I'm most familiar with, because they have 15-minute testing of COVID-19, and then they put the patient on hydroxychloroquine. They separate the patients into two varieties. There is the walking wounded; those are sent home. If they're low risk, they are not given anything other than to go home, hydrate, isolate yourself from family members, etc. Those who are sick and need nursing care, they are admitted, immediately put it on hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin, and then only if they get worse do they go to the ICU and get some of the more exotic and more expensive therapies.
Doctor, this is Jack Maxey. I mean, you're obviously a renowned clinician. In your opinion, is the hydroxychloroquine azithromycin really working the way that we're hearing it work?
Yes, I think the only negative trials have been when you give it to some person with one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel, when you're in the ICU and you have no way of rescuing them with IL-6 or IL-6 receptor drugs. That's not where it's going to have the greatest benefit.
Interesting.
If you look at back in China, you saw that there were lupus patients, 80 lupus patients that were mixing with the COVID-19 patients. None of them came down with COVID-19. So yes, there could even be the use of hydroxychloroquine or Plaquenil as a preventative, as a treatment, so that people get better quicker and back to work quicker. And there is where we're using it now, because we don't have much product. We have a shortage of product. There is those who are sick in hospitals and who could get much sicker, but are prevented by doing so by the very successful run of this drug. You know, they had in the Washington Times 6,227 people who took care of COVID-19 patients were asked, what's the best drug? Unanimously, they said hydroxychloroquine, and second of that was azithromycin.
Why is you're one of the most renowned oncologists in New York City, which is the medical capital of the world. Why you deal with FDA all the time? Why is Dr. Fauci and other people not leaning into this? You just get us a report, and we've been saying one of the reasons you see the difference between the ICU units and the ventilators is clearly they're using this therapeutic cocktail. Why is there not more of a push at the federal level to get this out there and to fully distribute this to all the states right now?
Well, I think in much of the academic and federal world, they love, and I think it's very important to perform randomized controlled trials. There are going to be plenty of patients to do those randomized trials. But when you're a doctor in the trenches and you have a sick patient in front of you, you want to be able to put that patient on the best therapy that you know of. Remember, you go to war with the army you have, not the army you'd like to have.
Boom, doctor.
And so, well, that's what it is.
We have sound effects here,
Yeah,
Doctor.
we love it. Keep going.
Okay, so I think that many of the doctors, have read and have heard of the use of this drug, and the one hospital I think that has had 0 deaths from this disease, they were extraordinary throughout their hospital systems, coming up with protocols to deal with this. And they have taken, and the leadership of that institution, I think, has been extraordinary. And they've made it go, widespread through their hospital system. And I think I see the data most couple of times a week, and they're bending the curve. And I think maybe what we should do is study some of the best practices at these hospitals and get them to the others.
Doctor, we got about a minute left. What would you tell New Yorkers, particularly people in the city, to get prepared for over the next week or 10 days?
That their local hospitals are going to become overwhelmed. And if they have an issue that requires hospitalization, don't be surprised if you're on a ship or in a convention center.
Dr. William Grace, thank you very much. Honored to have you to join us. Dr. William Grace, one of the top oncologists in town and former head of research, cancer research at St. Vincent's Hospital and Medical Center. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
This is exactly what we've been saying every day. You fight with the army you've got. This is a clinician at the tip of the spear, the rest of the doctors in the city. This fully opens up for the fact we've been talking about the math. While the difference between these ICU units and the ventilators, the reason that Cuomo's saying he's going to need less ventilators than the others, because these doctors at the tip of the spear using the FDA, what President Trump got on that kind of FDA waiver in extreme conditions. In the battle lines, in the front lines, New Yorkers' lives are going to be saved because these guys are at the tip of the spear and are looking to save their patients.
You know, we're going to find out which hospital that is. I think we already know which hospital it is, but it's one of the greatest hospitals in the world. And one thing I think that the listeners should get, when you listen to a doctor like that, that should fill you with a lot of confidence, a lot of inspiration. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to tell you a little bit about another doctor up in New Rochelle who's in combat and who has some other theories about this that may really start to have value.
Okay, hashtag War Room Pandemic. We want to get all your voices in there, Jump.
I just want to remind people, this is what the media called false hope. The audacity of false hope.
Exactly. Ridiculous. Okay. 77 WABC War Room Pandemic, New York City Special Report. Back in a minute.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
New York's Talk Radio, 77 WABC, War Room Pandemic, the New York City Special Report, Friday, the 3rd of April, year of our Lord, 2020. When someone like Dr. William Grace starts it off with, there's a Cat 5 coming, and this city's medical system is going to be overwhelmed. It's overwhelmed right now. That's when you pay attention. I mean, he is not an alarmist. He gave us the out. He talked to us about how we get out of here. We're going to actually get an update from Jack Maxey about New Rochelle. But Raheem, talk to us about some stats here.
Yeah, we're looking on Friday to Friday. So last Friday, March the 27th, to today. The number of cases in the state of New York went from 44,635 to 102,863. The number hospitalized went from 6,000 to 14,000. And the big one, the number of deaths in terms of the increase went from 519 last Friday to over 2,935 as announced by Governor Cuomo this morning.
There's 1,500, is it 1,500 casualties in New York City right now, I think? Over 1,500?
Yes. This
will pass 9/11 by early next week.
And additional breaking news, Twitter is blowing up on this, as everyone in New York listening probably just saw come across on their phones an emergency alert. It reads, "Attention all healthcare workers. New York City is seeking licensed healthcare workers to support healthcare facilities in need. Visit nyc.gov/help now to volunteer." And everyone's posting this to Twitter right now because it literally came through at 5:20 p.m.
Are they taking volunteers from throughout the nation? Is this what they want?
It went out to everyone in the New York City area. It went to all cell phones in New York.
Wow. I got to tell you, this is a once in, not just in a generation, beyond that, once in a lifetime. Let's get some good news, though. Dr. Grace did have good news, as we've been talking about from very early on. The therapeutics is what is at least going to get us help, assist us, get us through this initial stage. Talk to us about New Rochelle.
I spent about an hour on the phone with a very good doctor up in New Rochelle, and he has a very interesting theory about this. He's been studying it and treated over 100 patients. Now, it's not that he has the answer, but he believes that there may be a genetic component to why some people seem to get the cytonic storm, the overreaction in your lungs. I said that wrong. Cytokine storm. Forgive me. I'm not a doctor, though I play one on TV. And he believes that there is, therefore, a therapeutic treatment for it because children who tend to have this recessive gene, they don't have very good outcomes, but they found a way to control this immune response that they normally get whenever they get even a very small sickness. Now, I can't give you every detail because I'm told to keep it under wraps somewhat, but I wanted to share some sunshine with you guys and let you know that your healthcare professionals are literally pulling their hair out, spending every waking hour trying to figure out a way to keep you safe.
Well, the frontline doctors here are just, it's beyond heroic. But what they're doing in hospitals that are out there in front of this and saving lives, when you hear that hospitals that are overwhelmed in the ICU units and emergency rooms have no deaths or limited deaths or many less deaths, this was the tell the other day was the difference between the ICU units and the ventilators, right? You know that people are going in with this therapy.
And
right
he
at the
made
beginning.
a really good point, and I've had many conversations with doctors, and you certainly see it in the studies. by the time you are having breathing difficulties, your viral load is so large that the virus has found the sort of bottom land down by the river, and that's where it wants to plant itself in your lower lungs. So you got to start this sooner rather than later. Now, that whole thing with hydroxychloroquine came out of originally the thought about using it came out of a study from 2005 on SARS-1 instead of the CCP SARS-2 virus that we're dealing with now. And originally, they tried it in cell cultures. So they took human lung tissue and they infected it with the disease, and then they tried the hydroxychloroquine. Up until very recently, till Western doctors started fighting this, that was just a study. Well, here's something really interesting out of Australia. Again, probably one of the most widely used drugs in the world. Monash University-led study has shown a single dose of the drug ivermectin could stop the SARS-CoV-2 virus growing in cultures. Quote, we found that even a single dose could essentially remove all viral RNA by 48 hours, and that even at 24 hours, there was a really significant reduction to it. Now, this is very preliminary. Right. Don't go out and buy ivermectin. Right. But this just shows you the power of Western medicine, and it shows you the opposite of the Chinese Communist Party. These are free men sharing information, which the Chinese did not do,
on a real-time basis,
and coming up with solutions. That's freedom, people, and it's worth fighting for.
Okay, we've got the press conference has started. Kevin McCarthy starts. Has CNN already cut away for ratings, if nothing else?
No, but now it's on to President Trump, and actually CNN still has it up. We will let you know when they cut away.
Okay. We got a lot of stuff about Governor Cuomo. We got to get in. One of the things we're talking about on the morning show, and is going to be the focus for the entire weekend, is what are actually the numbers we're talking about, and where's the CDC and the NIH? Where's their model? We've talked a lot about the fact that we've got different models from University of Washington and Harvard and Columbia and everywhere like that. Where's actually the model that we're working on? So when you hear Fauci and all, jump in here, guys.
I got to jump in very quickly on the CNN thing you were just discussing. Okay, so I've become the CNN whisperer here. Here's the thing: They're
not listening, by the way.
No, they're so schizophrenic right now. They don't know what to do. So they've taken the sidebar away with the number of deaths and cases in the U.S., and they've taken the Dow away just now, and they pulled everything down.
The down Dow, red
they
arrow.
Don't put the up Dow up there, and they've got the whole screen focused on President Trump right now. And I thought, wow, for a second, I thought, wow, that's amazing. They're just covering this neutrally like a news organization. And then up pops, out of the chyron, just crept up very slowly, more CNN fact check, cnn.com/facts first. That thing doesn't go on there ever. Unless President Trump.
It's only Trump.
They're trying to get eyeballs to that little nerd Daniel Dale, that little guy. He's like the little mouse in the corner.
Yeah.
Like, hey, guys.
It's not working. He's not working on Skype. Skype does not work for him. That's got to be an in-studio guy.
Yeah.
Because he looks like the Christmas mouse off to the side, right? Just reciting all the facts. Do we have enough time? Do we have enough time for we don't have enough time for for Governor Cuomo. I'll tell you what. We're going to take a break. Let's hashtag War Room Pandemic. You guys have been lighting us up all day. We love it. We hear your observations, your comments, particularly news you want us to cover, and anything you've got. You got clips, you got stories. It's been fantastic what you do. Also, at War Room 2020, at War Room Pandemic, and go to 30daystosaveamerica.com. That's 30 Days to Save America. If we're going to take 30 days and hunker down, let's really hunker, okay? And so this is all in. We talk about the therapeutics. We talk about what has to happen on airline travel, vehicular travel, all of this. Okay, the entire team. We're going to be back on 77 WABC in just a second.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
New York's Talk Radio 77 WABC War Room Pandemic, New York City Special Report. Very honored today to follow America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Yesterday was Kimberly Guilfoyle and Don Jr. So we have a great lead-in. It gives us a big audience to start off with. I want to thank all the team at WABC. Also, John Fredericks Radio Network, America's Voice.news. They are carrying down the slot, the little slot down there on the TV screen, the press conference, and they will continue to carry it after the end of the show. Also, Newsmax TV, everywhere throughout the world. Okay, I want to go back to the we got a special announcement for everybody in the New York City area. What was it, Jason?
Yeah, everyone in New York just received the following text alert, came up on cell phones. Emergency alert, attention all healthcare workers. New York City is seeking licensed healthcare workers to support healthcare facilities in need. Visit nyc.gov/help now to volunteer.
Producer Vish, they said licensed healthcare workers, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Rules him out.
Exactly.
But this brings up, when will the president, remember in 2018 they had this the presidential alert system, the text messages. When will the president invoke that? When will he use that? I mean, arguably he's up there talking about the use of masks and scarves at the moment. It's something that
he's also talking about
you might wanna
equipment for
do.
New York City. I mean, this is a big part of the briefing right now. He's talking about New York City, particularly the PP&E. As we heard from Dr. William Grace in the first segment, it's one of the central things. Remember, the key thing here is the doctor, nurses, teams in those ICU units. That will be the gate. Got to make sure they're fully protected.
The other thing that's interesting, they're talking about going after 3M, because 3M is still apparently exporting masks that they're producing in America. So there's talk that the administration might take down the total production inside the United States and maybe even go after some of their production overseas.
Can I clarify on this? And again, I don't know the answer, but I saw where 3M is saying that the masks that they're making in Singapore are still going to be distributed to their Asian markets. Are there masks they're producing in the U.S., in the continental U.S., that they're then sending abroad?
To Canada, yes. Masks being made in the U.S. that are going to Canada.
Yeah. Bad form. Although we love our Canadians, need masks here, particularly in New York City. Let's go to Governor Cuomo. Some of the Governor Cuomo situation today about his press conference, the current state of play there.
102,000 total tested positive, 14,000 hospitalized, 3,700 ICU patients, 8,800 patients discharged. That's good news. Number of deaths, highest single increase in the number of deaths since we started, 2,300 to 2,900 deaths.
This was a lot more somber, Governor Cuomo, and more gravitas today than yesterday doing the bromance with the brother. But here's what I understand: the numbers, they're able to kind of forecast these numbers in advance. It's not that he doesn't know that this slope is coming. It's not that we're starting the real rise now to the apex of this, right? Next 7 to 21 days.
You know, although he was showing yesterday's press conference when he wasn't doing the bro out with Chris, they went through some of the numbers, and we're seeing the increase in the deaths, but in a number of these categories, they go up and down by a given day. It's not necessarily a purely smooth line as far as on the trajectory. And so some of these, I think, he seemed today, the seriousness in the tone and the gravity that caught even him. I don't know if off guard is the right word, but it surprised him maybe that number was even that big, because you could tell that it definitely impacted the governor today.
Big time. I don't know if we got time for the rest, but we have to play the Fauci, because both Newsmax and WABC, 77 WABC, if we got, I want to play both hits if we got them. One of the John Catsimatidis and also the Greg Kelly, if we got both of them.
Yeah, so let's do Greg Kelly first. This is January 21st.
Manageable numbers. Bottom line, we don't have to worry about this one, right?
Well, obviously you need to take it seriously and do the kinds of things that the CDC and the Department of Homeland Security are doing. But this is not a major threat for the people in the United States. And this.
Okay, before we go to the next one, that's Fauci, not a major threat. We launched it. We were doing the practice runs on the show on the 16th, 17th, and 18th in New York City into China, talking about Chinese New Year. But the whole show was just doing this. We decided to bifurcate the impeachment show, do an hour of my colleagues here. I had to wrench away 1 hour of the impeachment show to get to pandemic. But you remember the time of the discussion we're having, I'm sitting there, my hair's on fire. Biggest event in world history. Raheem and Jason are sitting there looking at me like I'm a madman, because I am. I'm pretty passionate about this, knowing China. And so I talked to Katz, whose Sunday show I'm on all the time on 77 WABC. It's a fantastic show, probably I think the best news show on Sunday, along with Maria Bartiromo. And I want to play with Fauci. He's got Fauci a few days after Greg Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, and again, 2 days after we launched War Room Pandemic.
What can you tell the American people about what's going on? Should they be scared?
I don't think so. The American people should not be worried or frightened by this. It's a very, very low risk to the United States, but it's something that we as public health officials need to take very seriously. This is a virus that has emerged and jumped species from an animal reservoir. It's a virus interesting.
So it keeps going after that.
Yeah, but here's the thing, is that, and The Hill wrote that up. You got up on Sunday morning, and because Katz's show is always breaking news with newsmakers, it got Fauci, and it's really the first time Fauci went to a national stage, because you had it on The Hill, you had it on Katz, and saying the headline was a senior U.S. health official report nothing about. America has nothing to worry about.
And what's even more ironic about this, 2 weeks ago, he's talking about how great the Chinese data is.
2 weeks after that, not
right.
14th of February.
And how wonderful they are and how cooperative they are. And yet, 2 days before he said that, they shut down Wuhan and Hubei province, and I guess that just wasn't
before
a serious...
on the Katz thing.
Yeah,
yes.
It was before he was on Katz.
Here's our point. We're not beating on Dr. Fauci just to beat on him. The problem we've got is the imprecision of language, and they're beating on the president nonstop. You got to get the scientists. You have to have the facts. You've got to get all this. And it's just moving in goalposts and imprecision of language.
So here's the buried lead and the most important thing we got to point out. So this is on the 21st and 26th. The Fauci saying, hey, don't worry about it. Not that big a deal. American people don't have to be worried. President Trump came in on the 31st, correct?
But the first discussion is probably on the 27th or 28th. The 27th or 28th is the first time they rounded up the posse to have the discussion. The decision was made, remember, on the 29th. And executed on the 31st. I think they gave them a day and a half, to get prepared. The airlines prepared. 31st is when it went down. I think it was announced on the 29th. They talked about it on the 27th.
So
which is the Monday after where this
right. So Nancy Pelosi and her little impeachment commission that she's trying to get going. We're going to go through and show Dr. Fauci 21st, 26th saying no big deal. President Trump, for all the criticism that he's gotten, came in just a couple days later, said, hey, Dr. Fauci, that's nice that you're not worried about it. I'm shutting down these flights to China. And don't we wish that the media had followed suit with the attention instead of being obsessed with impeachment for a couple
That's
more
what
weeks?
you're saying. And this is what I don't get about the media. Last night you have Dr. Fauci on Anderson Cooper with Sanjay Gupta in the town hall. And he says, when they ask him about, hey, should the nation be in a total lockdown? Do you have it? I want to play this.
Knowing the science, does it make sense to you that some states are still not issuing stay-at-home orders? I mean, whether there should be a federally mandated directive for that or not, I guess that's more of a political question. But just scientifically, doesn't everybody have to be on the same page with this stuff?
Yeah. I think so, Anderson. I don't understand why that's not happening. As you said, the tension between federally mandated versus states' rights to do what they want is something I don't want to get into. But if you look at what's going on in this country, I just don't understand why we're not doing that.
What's the announcement? What happened on the Chiron?
Just in last-minute decision, Fauci excluded from briefing.
That's the CNN Chiron right now.
Kaboom. Listening to the war room. Too much inconsistency.
But hold on. So that's Dr. Fauci last night.
Hang on a second. But hang on. I got to get to this. How does he sit there on Anderson Cooper and say, hey, I don't understand. Dude, you're the senior science guy. You and Birx. Don't you have a say-so? Why don't you? You have to understand maybe they decided not to do it. If that's fine, but tell us why. I mean, they just let him go on a total free ball. And this is why he continues to move the goalposts.
Steve, I just figured it out. Fauci is McClellan.
Exactly. With the big nice strategy, not
good man,
not executed.
Keep in mind, Dr. Fauci's been there since the Reagan administration. Right. So this is not someone who President Trump appointed. This is someone who's been there. He's revered by everyone in the media as being the burning bush.
Right. The Oracle.
The Oracle.
We're not, by the way, we're not doing a beatdown of Fauci as deep state, this is all planned. We're saying if you're the Oracle and you're supposed to, this is what gets me, is driving me nuts. If you're evidence-based and science-based, and we agree with this, we're the model guys. We want to have the models and the math and the metrics and how do you judge it. But if you're going to do that, do it. In the mainstream media, is got to put him to say, hey, what is your model? What is your assessment? If you say, I don't understand, well, how do you not understand? You're the senior science advisor. What is your advice to do it? And if he's not doing it, why is he not doing it?
So you just heard. Oh, go ahead, Ricky.
I just want to say I couldn't
Don't be
care
shy about
less.
jumping in
I'm
here.
very shy, you know me. I couldn't care less who Dr. Fauci is. What I care is that Dr. Fauci is consistent. He goes on and he says, I don't understand why certain things aren't happening. I understand perfectly well because you have been inconsistent since January on this. You were telling us in January that this isn't a big deal. You're now saying, oh, I don't know why we're not doing like national lockdown and all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, you're the person informing the policy. Dr. Fauci is on the record as having said that any recommendations he has made to the President of the United States, the President of the United States has taken those recommendations. So how can he go on Anderson Cooper and say, I don't understand why this isn't happening? It's his recommendation to make.
I'll guarantee you the reason he's not on it, I think, is in the Washington Post story. Okay, the Washington Post story has a quote from two officials with direct knowledge of the matter. That means they sat in and heard it. Okay, this is a quote from Fauci. I've looked at all the models. I spent a lot of time on the models. They don't tell you anything. You can't really rely upon the models. Now, the President of the United States just went on stage 2 days ago with a chart that said 100,000 to 240,000 dead. And that's the best case. The bad case is the 2.2 million, right? If you take full mitigation. And now he's saying in the Washington Post, I don't know about these models. They're not good to me. Believe me, somebody inside the West Wing today, he said, Fauci, you got to come over. You got to explain this one. What are you talking about? And if you don't write, then why did you bang on the story? Was you and Birx put him on the president's desk in the Oval Office on the Resolute desk, and we're banging saying, hey, this is what we got to do. And the president said, quote, we got to do it.
Yeah, right. Because the whole thing here is what type of advice is President Trump getting? What types of evidence are being put in front of him? Everyone hinges on every word, every facial expression, every holding of his throat that Dr. Fauci does. And I mean, they talk about it on CNBC. They talk about it like, are the markets going to be up today? Are they going to be down? Are people confident? He seemed to give good news. He seemed to be in a good mood tonight. How will the markets react the next morning? So when he says something like that on CNN, like there needs to be a national lockdown, then he comes back on Fox and Friends this morning and says, well, we basically already have that in place. You can't do that within like a 12-hour stretch.
Was Dr. Fauci there or not when they put the graphs on the television screens and walked people through the modeling? Was he there?
Yeah.
Of course he was there.
Dr.
Of course he was there.
Yes.
So how's he there one day and saying this the next day about the modeling?
I think that is the reason he's not up on the stage today. They are having a discussion internally, I'm sure, about exactly what are you recommending. Right? Where's the NIH models? By the way, in this same article in the Washington
Dr.
Post.
Birx alert. She is now up at the podium.
And what's the scarf? What's the scarf?
It's really cool
It's my,
looking.
it's my scarf alert.
Like
Scarf
orange,
alert.
yellow.
Okay.
It's like a Corona orange.
Vish just said he wish he had one just like it.
He might.
Yeah,
It's a very beautiful
typical
saffron silk scarf.
Just,
Steve. I'm sure
just
you'll like
another
it very
fashion
much.
forward guy from Staten Island. Okay. But this is what is so important. Let's talk about our 30-day. Listen, we agree with Dr. Fauci that this ought to be a national lockdown. And there's a ton of conservatives out there that don't agree with us. We think this has to – if you want to take the month off, you got to run at this thing as hard as you possibly can. We also think that New York City is a hot zone. We want to stop all international travel from coming into Kennedy. Right? We just think that this is adding to the infection in New York City. And the last thing, you just heard William Grace, one of the most respected doctors in town, whose hair is not on fire, saying a Cat 5 is coming ashore here in New York City in the healthcare system. We need to make additional infection gets into New York City. And that's why we're talking about this. We put this plan up. It's at 30daystosaveamerica.com. We want you to get all the information. Jump in, Jason.
Yeah, go into it. So what we talk about in here for flights and travel, we believe domestic air travel as well as international air travel should be immediately restricted in order to bring down the ability for the virus to spread to new areas. Talk about testing. This is something that Jack in particular has dove into quite a bit. Since the beginning of the whole pandemic, one of the aspects that we obviously have to struggle with is the mass testing. Without the testing, can't know the rate of infection, need to have mass testing, shelter in place. We We need to have a national shelter in place. Just that's the bottom line. Masks in public. We saw the announcement today, but those were recommendations. We think there absolutely should be masks for everybody because, again, it's not so much about you preventing you from getting it. It's about you from not spreading it. If not a mask, bust out a scarf. That can be fine. Quarantine, we talk about how well it worked when we did it with New Rochelle. Do you think that in some of these hotspots like New York City, New Orleans, Detroit, as we get there, and then therapeutics, and this might be the most optimistic thing, need to make sure that the FDA is using the most liberal guidelines as possible, so instructing doctors how to deal with this whole scope, whether it be the antimalarials, the hydroxychloroquine, and don't worry about this anecdotal stuff like Dr. Fauci said. Let's help people.
Okay, we're going to come back on 77 WABC in 1 second. Too much time.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
New York's Talk Radio 77 WABC. War Room Pandemic, the New York City Special Report. We've got some breaking news from the press conference.
Yes, Dr. Deborah Birx, who was just at the podium, said we are closely monitoring Chicago and Detroit as hot zones, a little more closer to home. She also said that Connecticut is a hot zone.
Western Connecticut, I'm telling you, a real hot zone, and so is New Jersey. The tri-state area, that's why we've got a Cat 5 hurricane coming ashore, as Dr. William Grace has said. This is serious. Okay, I want to give us some better news. We're for locking this thing down hard for 30 days. This country can't take 60 or 90. We're not built like that. First off, financially, we can't do it. And just structurally and emotionally, it's just not in the American character to do that. This 30 days, we got to smash. We got to do everything, every tool in the toolbox. And you're already seeing how using the therapeutics is helping in New York City by the frontline doctors. Now, here's how we're going to be able to unlock it. It's the antibody test. Jack, you got a couple minutes. Walk through how important this is. How's it going to get distributed?
Well, one of the reasons the antibody test is so important is we still do not know the denominator, i.e. we do not know how many Americans are infected. Obviously, if you've been infected and you're now healthy, you should not be sitting in your living room watching Netflix. You should be back at your job helping us rebuild this economy. So it's very important in that regard. Also, one thing that I don't think anybody has commented on, but I think it would be a great way to use this test and encourage people's patriotism during this war that we find ourselves in. The American Red Cross is having a tremendously difficult time trying to find blood donors. Now, my thought is, let's take these people who've recovered. Let's find these people with the antibodies and let's enlist them.
Okay, but
as
when is
blood
it? And when are
donors.
the antibodies going to be ready to go? You said
And
there's
the
17
reason-
million. There's 17 million ready to go in England right now.
There's plenty. This can be done at any hospital.
I know, but is it in the field right now as distributed? What's the details?
My understanding from speaking to today is that they are trying it in hospitals all around America. I just will caution people about this therapy. This therapy was tried all the way back in 1918. It's a 100-year-old idea, and I hope it works out. But it's
Well, it's basically supposed to show the herd immunity.
Yes,
who in the herd? Basically, who
we'll
in the
find
herd's
out.
got
But
it?
I'm talking about in terms of the
You'll get your
plasma
herd
treatment.
the plasma treatment.
The
I'm just talking about that I don't know about. I'm talking about the herd immunity. You're going to get your science certificate.
Steve, I'm not sure if you're a big fan of popcorn, but Sunday morning you should have a big bowl that's popped and ready to go. Dr. Fauci will be on CBS Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan.
Okay. Well, hopefully,
Will that be his first-
he was pulled off the podium today, but he's going to go in the Sunday shows.
See how
on
that
Sunday.
works out.
Will that be his first appearance in unemployment, or is that? I mean, what's going to happen there? I just want to jump in here on this one. 17.5 million tests the United Kingdom now has the antibody test. They were talking about 3.5 million originally. They upped the order. They are coming in from China. So Public Health England is saying, wait, we have to assess these tests, see if they're real, see if they work, and then we can roll them out.
Are we ordering ours from China? Or
No, we're. My understanding from my conversation yesterday, they are being prepared here in this country.
And so, when is England going to give the? When are they going to give the approval to go ahead and use these?
They expect it in the next week or so, they said. But it's going to be slow. I mean, our testing has been very slow across the board on everything. They expect about 350 tests per week in the next coming weeks.
How did this work in Germany? This changes the entire equation in Germany.
Well, it's theoretically changed the entire equation in Germany. They're having the same issues.
You sound like you're from the FDA. Jack Maxey, always throwing down until you put him on the spot. Well, you know.
No.
That
Listen, I'm the one who wants the cost-benefit analysis here and get us back to work.
Jack McClellan's now speaking.
Exactly. Arm yourselves and be ye men of valor, people.
Okay, hold it. We got to bounce. Okay, we need you to go to hashtag War Room Pandemic, at War Room Pandemic, at War Room 2020, or go to the site. You're going to learn everything you need about 30 days to save America. I'm also going to be on Maria Bartiromo on Sunday walking through this program. That is 30 days to save America.com. We're going to be back on tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, and then we'll be back on Monday and next Monday afternoon at 5 p.m. We'll be back on New York's Talk Radio 77 WABC. I want to thank the entire WABC family for making this work out. We continue now on AVN with the press conference.